All right, so for our next story right over here, we're going to be talking about a little animated short, but
Mm.
it really blew up on the internet in a big way. I kid you
Yeah.
not. This really became one of the biggest internet sensations this week. Like, the short itself actually just got released, and
Hmm.
already it's, like, for a while now, it's actually the #2 trending video on YouTube.
Oh,
And
still holding that title. That's good.
oh yeah. And on top of that, like even beforehand, this really got some massive anticipation and it really got some really big attention
Well, I
from
know they
the
had the
public.
Kickstarter campaign, right?
Yeah. They did. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, it is the animated short called In a Heartbeat. Now, for those of you who don't know, allow me to just make a quick little explanation about it. In a Heartbeat is a 4-minute animated short that basically it's a little bit of a combination of some of the more recent Disney shorts like Inner Workings and Paperman,
Not to
where
be confused with In a Heartbeat, the Disney Channel live-action sitcom with EMS. Remember that one?
I have no, honestly. As a true Disney fan, I put my mind of Disney Channel on the side. I don't associate that with
It
Disney.
exists, people. Anytime I hear that title, In a Heartbeat, I think about like the theme song going, In a Heartbeat. Da-da-ding. Comment section. Let me know if you remember that show.
Oh, good God. Well, this is going to be the new thing that people will remember when it comes to In a Heartbeat.
Okay.
But here's the big thing why people really do remember this is that it actually has an LGBT theme, because this is just the story of a boy who has a crush on another boy. But then suddenly his heart escapes from his body, and the boy dies because he cannot function without his heart in his body. No, I'm just kidding. Basically, the heart comes out of it, and he's trying to go after the boy that he likes. And, well, I guess you got the little romance story going on from there. I'll let you go and see it. But to go in a little bit of details of what this is all about, believe it or not, guys, this isn't from any big studio or anything like that. This is actually a student thesis at the Ringling College of Arts and Design. This was actually crafted by Beth David and Ernesto Bravo. And like Joey stated, this actually had a Kickstarter campaign back in November, and they only asked for like $3,000, but because of the huge support that this animated short has gotten, they ended up getting a total of $14,000. And ever since then, it became a huge internet sensation. It became so viral, and it has already gathered such a huge fan base. Like, already you see tons of fan art going around. I'm already seeing people cosplaying as some of the characters. And yeah, that's basically the big thing with In a Heartbeat. It's the latest internet sensation. And let me just ask you, Joey, what did you think of the animated short?
You know, it's great because I actually wanted to do a Cartoon Palooza shorty on this. And when I first heard about it, I was a little worried because I didn't know much about the pre-production to it. But I was a little worried about hearing the concept, because when you take a concept or you take something that's a hot topic, some studios, you know, like Sony and the Emoji Movie, are going to want to sensationalize it or do it the wrong way. An example of this, and this may be a little controversial, but 13 Reasons Why came out, and it kind of sensationalized the idea of depression and suicide, and may have set the wrong example on how to do it. You know, just as someone who, if you guys didn't know, I have a background in psychology and counseling. So I was worried that the short was going to sensationalize it versus give an honest, genuine approach to something like, you know, homosexual relations. But when I saw it, I was happy. I was satisfied. And it's just such a sweet, genuine short. I mean, like, if you're a student and you're in animation going in, this is going to be the short that's going to be talked about for a while. And it's great that it's a student short film, because it's been a while since we've had a student animated short film gain this much traction. I think the only one that I could think about would be the one that, you know, way back when John Lasseter won his Academy, you know, Student Academy Awards. and that's John Lasseter. So that's saying a lot. There have probably been other ones that have been just as influential, but Ringling was always known for computer animation. So I think it's great that they have a short like this to really set themselves, as a school, kind of like what Cal Arts did. That's a whole other topic for another time. But what I can say is that I'm happy that as a creative person, as someone who's written, stories and narratives, and you can attest for this too, you're a creative person as well. How long has it been for them to finally make a short? We've seen Boy Meets Girl and Girl Meets Boy for God knows how long. How it's about time we finally got Boy Meets Boy and Girl Meets Girl. Like,
yeah,
that's
actually
so obvious.
Yeah, the real interesting thing is that I actually read at one point they were wanting to do the dull heterosexual love story of just Boy Meets Girl, but at the end of the day they ultimately decided, why not go do Boy Meets Boy? And you really are right there. I really do feel like this is such a sweet, simple animated short about Boy Meets Boy. And like I said before, like there is that direct comparison of Inner Workings and Paperman, but it does bring out that love story genuinely well. It does feel simple, like it really does manage to get the right tone correctly. Like you get a little bit of that comedy, a little bit of that drama, and like you do you do see the feelings between the two kids. Like it really is nice. But you're right, I really do agree that the way that they handled the LGBT themes right over here, they really did it in a way that is simple and that is very mature, but also family friendly, that people of all ages can look at this and that they can appreciate it as well, because they didn't go too far from it. Well, they didn't go too far with it, and that they didn't over exaggerate any of the gay aspects. Like not one of the characters would be going flamboyantly or anything like that.
You don't see any of the
you don't see any of the stereotypes coming from something like Sausage Party. Like they're just presented as people, and basically even if you just switch out one of the characters as a girl, like you pretty much get the same result. And I think that really is the beauty of how to portray a homosexual relationship. You just show them as people. Like if you can show it in a way that you can easily switch it out with one sex being the opposite, then you really nailed it, because overall, love is love, no matter what sex it is,
And that's the problem for, a lot of filmmakers recently, is that they forgot that. And I think it goes back to just a general gender study and a general study that's been going on for years, and this idea of alterity and the other. And sometimes filmmakers are burdened, or they're worried about something because they don't really understand what the other is. And it doesn't just apply to just gender orientation or sexual orientation, but it also applies to race. Sometimes filmmakers just don't know how to approach it, whereas in actuality they think so much about the fears that they tend to forget about the actuality. And it's just two people falling in love. Just tell a love story. It's that easy. And I think when you watch something and you get the moment where you're like, I wish I came up with that, you've made a good short. And it's simple, but simple doesn't have to be bad as long as you have a lot of good stuff behind it. And it's very well animated, very well rendered. And it's a simple story, but simple doesn't mean like it's lacking, intelligence. It's got a lot. It's a very short, poetic, and very well animated short. And that's why it works. And that's why I think, the internet's falling in love with it. And the best thing out of this is that if Hollywood studios can see that this is how you can make a short, you can make, a rom-com or make a romantic film featuring two homosexual characters, we can see, a future with, homosexual characters, a positive, outlook for it versus, falling upon fears and, as you mentioned before, the stereotypes of gay characters in film.
Yeah, like this pretty much did open up the possibilities of how it can work. And
Yeah.
we have seen slowly but surely we are seeing more homosexual characters appearing in animated features, and even for mainstream family-friendly animated features. Like, we've already got Paranorman, and we also got a little bit of How to Train Your Dragon 2, where Gober kind of came out of the closet a little bit when he mentioned it. Was like, I'll never understand that. Well, that's another reason.
And the funny thing about that, too, is I think, there's always the executive decision. I mean, I don't know what goes... We all don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but there's always a possibility that filmmakers want to get these ideas out there, but someone in the studio making the shots will be like, I don't know. That's, that's going to drive away, the audience. But, that's why it started off as small things, like in Paranorman and in How to Train Your Dragon. And then suddenly it's realizing, you know what, maybe we can, it's time. We can now feature, homosexual characters.
Yeah, I know, like, the only problem with it is that I understand nowadays, like, we're still going to get the backlash, like, we're still going to get those idiotic homophobics that are going to be whining and complaining and all that stuff. But eventually, like, there will be a time when that won't be that much of an issue. Like, it'll still be there, but eventually there will be a time when the LGBT community will be accepted a lot more as people. They still have a long journey ahead of them in order to be fully accepted by the public, by everyone, both, like, no matter which side of the political spectrum that you're in. But but at least, like, they are, it's a path that is slowly but surely getting there. Like, for me personally, I do feel like this is the reason why it's going to be a long time until we're going to see a mainstream animated feature that will actually star a gay character. But at least we're going to go down into the right path into making it. Like, eventually we will make it there, and In a Heartbeat is actually a good first step. But
it is a good first step.
Yeah, but Joey, I'm going to ask you a question now that is probably going to make people hate us. Do you have any criticisms towards In a Heartbeat? Like, if there are any flaws that you want to point out, what would they be?
So, you know what? There's no such thing as the perfect short, and it's our job to point out when things are subjectively wrong and objectively wrong, because guess what? We gotta be the bearer of bad news, but someone's gotta be the bearer of bad news. But, when I was watching this, maybe I have to rewatch it again, but for me, I feel like all the flaws it could have had could have been avoided if it weren't a student film, but because these are made by students who are still learning their craft, I think these are things that will be fixed. The animation is kind of inconsistent at times, but that's something that is a student film. Like, it's kind of like a loaded criticism, because it's going to be corrected for, because it's a student work. So I think people need to go into that mindset going into this. It's like, it's not going to be, a Pixar level animated short, because it's not a Pixar level animated short. In fact, because it is a student animated short, you can almost say that they're taking full advantage of what a studio that makes, like Splash Entertainment making Norm in the North is failing on. And they are a bigger studio than, say, a student coming out of an art school. So I think it's actually not just, it started off as a criticism, but actually works in its favor. Is that because this is a short film made by students who are still learning their craft, the fact that, they're still working and improving, and it's they're going in the right trajectory and in the right step. In fact, the only criticism I have is the animation, but that's because, like I said, a million times already, is that this is something that they're going to be working on. But as it is, just go in knowing that this isn't going to be a Pixar level animated short.
Yeah, honestly, I completely agree with you right there. That's my one little thing with this animated short. Now, there are a lot of aspects in the animation that do work. I really do like the designs, the backgrounds. They're simple, but they do work in their favor. It's just the character animation. It just feels a little bit rigidy. The movements are not necessarily as smooth. It's just like, it does need a little bit more work. But like you said, this is still a student project, and I've seen so much hype for it, though. That's the thing.
It's such a backhanded comment too, because it is something that they're going to be working on, and especially for guys who go into a program focusing on one type of animation, and because computer animation is a multi-step process, you're not going to get that fluid animation unless you focus on rigging. But maybe the guys working on this, calling the shots, were mostly doing modeling or doing textures. That's why that aspect is probably not going to be as big as the other one. But like we were saying, it's something that they're still learning the craft.
Yeah,
but and I agree.
They're students. They're still learning. At least they have that excuse. But like when you mentioned though that when you advise people don't come in expecting a Pixar film or anything like that, that's probably the big thing they really need to people really need to emphasize, because I've seen so much hype for it, people writing in so many clickbait titles going oh my god, this is animated Pixar. Short. Yeah, no joke. I've seen one saying this is as good as a Pixar short. They really want to go far by saying this is the best animated thing ever.
Really? Is it really as good as a Pixar? It's quality-wise really coming out of the
quality
Pixar
of the
studio?
Animation, it's not. But writing-wise, it is as good as some of the mainstream shorts. Something that could come out as Disney. That, I will give them that, but animation-wise, it will need a little bit more work, but again, they're students, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're going to master their craft. At least we know that with the criticisms that we'll be giving, they are going to be working on it. They will be improving on it. So at least there is a good in there. So overall, I would say that this is definitely a great short, and I highly recommend anyone go checking it out, and especially if you're someone in the LGBTQ plus community, this is going to be a #1 watch right over there. And my only advice is just don't go.
Too, you should watch this as well. If you're a creative person that wants to know good, simple storytelling, this is it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to, and this is also a great idea that if you want to incorporate some LGBTQ plus themes into your subject, and you want to find a source outside of some of the Cartoon Network stuff like Steven Universe and Adventure Time, this would actually be a great idea. So yeah, I highly recommend checking it out.
I agree.
Yeah.